Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ground Zero Law's exclusive webinar on corporate law.
Good evening, sir.
Today's session is designed to give law students a practical and insightful understanding of the corporate legal world and the opportunities it's offer and the skills required to succeed in it. And today we are honored to have Ms. Sakshi Kothari ma'am with us. She's a corporate law professional, legal educator, and a mentor who will be guiding us through this exciting journey. So I just want you all to sit back, take notes, and get ready to explore corporate law beyond textbooks. Without any further delay, I would like to invite our esteemed speaker, Sakshi ma'am, to take over the session and start.
Good evening, everyone. I hope I am audible and my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
So, let us begin with the session, which is talking about the introductory session on the corporate law for the law students. So, today we will be discussing that what is in corporate law, क्या exciting है और क्या practical strategies है that as a law student you can offer in corporate law. सबसे पहले कॉर्पोरेट लॉ हमेशा से ये नहीं है कि इट इज नॉट जस्ट ऑल अबाउट द कंपनीज बट इट इज अबाउट दैट हाउ द बिजनेस आर बी फंक्शनिंग लीगली कि मतलब सिर्फ और सिर्फ कंपनीज के बारे में नहीं पढ़ेंगे हम आज, पर हम ये भी पढ़ेंगे कि बिजनेस में किस तरीके से लीगल डोमेन के अंदर कॉर्पोरेट लॉ का यूज किया जाता है. सो इन दिस सेशन देयर माइट बी सम ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स जिनको बहुत ही ज़्यादा लॉ फर्म में काम करना होगा या जिनको बहुत ज़्यादा इंटरेस्ट होगा स्टार्टअप्स या बिजनेसेस को टैकल करने के लिए, या फिर ऑल दीज एरियाज दीज आर साइमल्टेनियसली बीइंग कनेक्टेड टू द कॉर्पोरेट लॉ कि मतलब कि ये सारे के सारे एरियाज जितने भी हैं ये सारे हमारे कॉर्पोरेट लॉ के अंदर ही आते हैं. तो इसलिए हम इसको कहते हैं ये एक ऐसा डायनामिक फील्ड है. क्यों है डायनामिक फील्ड? क्योंकि ये कंटिन्यूसली और कंसिस्टेंटली चेंज होते रहते हैं एज पर द डिमांड कि हमारे मार्केट में किस तरीके से डिमांड बढ़ रही है उस तरीके से हमारे कॉर्पोरेट लॉ की भी डिमांड बढ़ती चली जा रही है. सो देयर आर वेरियस करियर अपॉर्चुनिटीज विद द लॉ फर्म्स एज वेल एज द कंपनीज एंड दिस कंबाइंस विद स्ट्रैटेजी एंड कंप्लायंस वर्क जो कि हम कॉर्पोरेट लॉ के अंदर पढ़ेंगे. एसेंशियल है ये हमारे से फॉर स्टार्टअप्स और
Excuse me,
एमएनसीज.
ma'am.
यस.
Oh, ma'am, sorry, ma'am. Can you communicate in English, ma'am?
ओके.
Yeah, thank you.
So the corporate law is where the legal knowledge meets the business decisions in making. So we discussed about how the why corporate law matters to us, and now we will be discussing about how the corporate law governs. It talks about the formation of the companies, it talks about the rights of the shareholders, duties of the director, and the corporate compliances. So when we are studying about the corporate law, it is also a sub part of a business law in which we will be also covering about the economics laws also. Formation of the company, rights of the shareholder, duties of the director, these all are governed under our Companies Act of 2013. But when we are talking with the compliances which are governed under the SEBI regulations or the FEMA regulations that have been mentioned, so we will be studying that how the business regulation and the corporate compliance plays a crucial role when we are talking with the context of a corporate law. Like suppose there are three friends and they want to start a food delivery startup, right? Now when they have to start a food delivery startup, so they have to create a separate identity of that particular firm, right? A food delivery startup should have a name to it, right? So that is the one of a characteristic whenever you are forming any company or any of a startup. When I'm talking about an important concept over here, that is talking about the separate legal entity, which says that the company is having a separate legal entity. For example, the companies and the owners are legally being different from the name that has been given to that particular company. Right? So that's why the company law is one of the dynamic fields of law, that whenever we have to start any of the thing, we have to look into that what is the main method that we have to follow. So it combines the law, business, strategy, and the finance. So in this, we have to know that whenever we are starting any business, we have to know what the strategy we have to include, what is the finance that we have to look into that. And when we talk about the career opportunity that we discussed in the first slide, that we will be talking with the MNCs, we will be talking with the the companies, we will be talking the compliances that have been followed in the law firms also. Even when we are talking about the major company needs a corporate lawyers. Why do they need a corporate lawyer? Because when they are starting any of their businesses, they have to mention such type of companies like the Tata Group is there, Reliance Industries is there, Infosys is there. So they all have a big short corporate lawyers, right? So that's why whenever you are interested in this particular field, you can't say that you only know the company side. You have to know the strategies also. You have to know you can become a transaction lawyer also. So these are various types of im- implied that yes, these all are coming under our corporate law. Now we will be talking about the life cycle of a company. Like when I talked about of an example that there are three friends that they want to start up a new business, right? So we have to mention that a life cycle of a company has to depend that what is the idea, what is the innovation, and how we have been researching in this particular market. Though this idea has already been in existence, then our business would fail, right? So accordingly, we have to look into this that how our businesses startups. So first stage for starting any of the life cycle of a company depends on the incorporation that talks about the registration and the legal compliance. So to understand this, we have to know that yes, we know the incorporation how it is to be done. We know the legal compliances that how it can be done. Whenever you are studying a 5 years integrated program or a 3 years LLB, you can always opt for CS, Company Secretariat exam also. Why you can opt for that exam? Because Company Secretariat main work is to do the compliance work, right? When you already have a law degree and then you have to go in compliance work, so the CS will add up an addition to it, right? So that's why whenever we talk about an incorporation or the registration, though we as an advocates can do the registrations as well as. So it is the first stage of a life cycle of a company that we are talking about the incorporation. The second stage is talking about the funding. After the incorporation, now the company needs the funding. Why they needs the funding? To run their business, to see that they can reach to that particular growth level, right? So now we have to understand, ma'am, from where the funding can come. So from funding can come from any of an venture capital, any of an investor, or we can also opt for a loan, depending on the scale of that particular company. Whenever we are talking about the funding perspective, there are also some of it funders that are available as an advocates also, so that they can also give a input to that particular company itself. The third is talking about the governance. Governance we talk about as well as the business operations. Like for example, the contracts, the hiring of an employees, the compliance work, that how we have to look into this, that if we have been establishing our 100 crore business, then we need this type of funding, the how the governance has to take place, how we will be appointing the board of directors, how the directors will be appointed. So that is talking about all everything in the governance structure, that how you will be designing your board structure. The last one is talking about the expansion. Now, when you started your particular business in a particular area, now when after a year you can see that yes, it is scaling up. So when it has been scaling up, now you have decided to grow up into any other countries or any other states also or any other districts also. So depending upon your scale, now you are going for an expansion with the successful company that you've expanded in that particular district as well, right? So for that, the examples are given like in mergers, acquisitions, or an international business. So when we're talking about the mergers, merger means that when two companies are combining together and forming a new entity, that is a merger, right? And when we're talking about an acquisition, acquisitions means that the another company who is not able to grow up in the market but doing the same work that the parent company is doing. So when the parent company is doing the same thing, now you're acquiring the shares of that particular company, making it as a joint venture, and then you are going up to release that particular product in the market. because you don't have to scale up much and you can take in help of the same holding company that has already been there in the market, because they are not able to scale up their business but we are able to scale up the business. So that's why you can take and acquire their particular shares of their company. The last one is talking about the closure or the insolvency, that is the winding up. That talks about the dissolution or the liquidation process. Now, when the companies have been failing or the successful businesses have been failing, then in such situation the insolvency laws have been applied, and also in our companies like the winding up are also been not been repealed, but it has not been formation, because now the IBC laws have been playing a crucial role into it. That whenever we have to talk about the closure of any of a company, then we will be going up to the NCLT for any of a closing of that particular company. And how, if in case we INSEP decides, we as in partners in that particular firm decides that yes, we have to go for a liquidation or we have to go for a dissolution, that we have personally been dissolving our particular company. So it depends upon the interest of the partners who are working in that particular company, right? So accordingly you can go for a dissolution, you can go for a winding up, you can go for a liquidation, that you have to release all out of your assets and you can give some of an amount to your any of the partners according to that. And if you have taken any of a loan, so the loan will be acting as in creditors of that particular company, right? So that creditors will also get the amount that has to be repaid by that particular company. So this is the life cycle of a company. Whenever we are talking about with the perspective that we have to establish a company, we should always know these type of steps that we have to follow. Now we are talking about the corporate governance. Why we are talking about the corporate governance? Because corporate governance is something that might be taught you as a theoretical subject in your law schools, but it is also being applied in the corporate firms as well. Why it has been applied in the corporate firm? Because there is some of an ethical and responsible management has to be taken place of that particular companies. Like if I talk about the board of directors and the committees, there are various different types of in committee. Talking about the audit committee, talking about the stakeholder relationship committee, talking about the nomination and remuneration committee. There might be only not a one committee that would be looking after that how we have to pay the fees or how we have to give the salary of this particular director, right? So it depends upon each and every committee how they've been playing a role. So that's why a corporate governance is very important. Second, if we talk about the legal and the regulatory framework, that is talking about though corporate governance is not being defined anywhere in our statutory provisions, but these are certain norms that you have to follow it, right? The organization hierarchy, there might be a CEO, there might be a managing director, there might be a different members, there might be a board of directors. So accordingly each and every hierarchy has to be followed as per the corporate governance norms. Monitoring and the internal control, everything has been done by the corporate governance. Transparency and accountability is one of the principle of the corporate governance, that whenever a director has been spending such type of money in that particular company, then what is the accountability of that particular property? How is the transparency being maintained? For these all, we need a compliance officer named as company secretary. Policies and the procedures, these all are being formed under the corporate governance. If we talk about the duties of the director, that they have to act honestly and with the company's best interest. They can't take out the money from that particular company for their personal drawings or their personal use. This might be an example for a lifting of a corporate week. So that's why we should be acting in that particular capacity, that we are being honest to that particular organization. Second, if we talk about that how you can build a career as a corporate lawyer, this is the most crucial part for today's session. There are the 8 topics, though there can be more than it also, but these are some of the familiar ones that you would have also been heard about, and how you can become it, that we will be studying about it. Now, first one, if you want to enter in the corporate law, then you have to focus on the basis first, right? focus on the basis means the subjects like the company law, contract law, and the SEBI regulations. These you must be familiar with. Then only you can go for this 8 Ps. Firstly, you have to do such type of an internships that are also very important, in which you will be learning about the drafting, research, professional communications. Then you will be able to do so. First is the career that is talking about the mergers and acquisition lawyer. Now, how you can become a merger and acquisition lawyer? Because when you have done such type of an internship under any of a merger and acquisition lawyer, then you know how the dealings have been taking place. Then, as per your experience, as per your networking, you can go and join this particular. You can become such type of a lawyer. Second is talking about the in-house counsel. Like if I talk about Amazon, Amazon is such a big e-commerce platform, right? They might also have such type of an consumer forums complaints being coming out, right? So in that particular company, you can go and be an in-house counsel. In that, what you have to do is that you have to be a good contract lawyer. Why you have to be a good contract lawyer? Because whenever we have been logging to any of a website, we already know that there are terms and conditions written, but we never read it or we just click it because we have to just reach out to this particular website, right? So, and in case such type of a dispute arises, then you have to look up into that particular contract, that how you can save your client or how you can save your particular company. So there are various numbers of the company. If I talk about the Pepper Fry, there, Godrej is there. So each and everyone is having their in-house counsel. So in-house counsel can be also one of a part of a corporate lawyer. The third one is talking about the securities lawyer. Now, what does the securities mean, ma'am? The securities which we are being governing under the Securities Exchange Board of India, right? The SEBI regulations are being there, like you can't disseminate any of your private sensitive information. The insider trading should not be there. So in these type of the framework, if you like this particular job, then you can become a security lawyer also. Fourth one is an IP attorney. Now, how to become an IP lawyer? To become an IP lawyer, you have to work in an IP law firm. That you know that how the position trademark has to be filed, how the replies have to be filed, how you have to search this particular trademark in that particular website that have been freely accessible, or I can say a public search is also very familiar with it, right? So when you know these all things, then you can also become an IP attorney. Fifth one is talking about the banking and the finance lawyer. Banking and the finance lawyer, what is the main benefit out of it? That if we opt for banking and the finance lawyer, see, you should know about the IBC, Insolvency the Bankruptcy Code, because in some of the cases or more of the cases, the companies go for dissolution or the winding up process. So in that case, we need a banking lawyer for it. Secondly, you can also go for a bank jobs also. In that, you can become a bank manager for it, a legal manager for it, because bank might also get such type of in cases. So then you will be acting as an in-house counsel of that particular bank, but you will also be known as a banking lawyer. Now, ma'am, how we can become a finance lawyer? The finance lawyer is something that is dealing with the money, right? Now, when we are talking about with the bank is also dealing with the money. But to become a finance lawyer, you should know the strategies that you have to offer it. Like if I say, for an instance, there is a company that is going to be wind up within next 6 months. That you already know that he or that company has become insolvent, right? Now within that 6 months, they might be not producing such type of a product, but the product are already available in the market. Then how we will look into that? The product that is already available in the market, we have to sell it off, and then the rest factory already has been pulled down, or I can say it has been closed down, right? So accordingly, as in finance lawyer, you have to make such type of a strategies, or you should having such type of a recommendation skills to that particular company, that how they can go further, proceed further with such type of a strategy to close up that particular company also, and the products are also being sold out in the market also. If I talk about the antitrust or in competition lawyer, now antitrust and the competition lawyer, there are very few in the market. Why there are very few in the market? Because when I am talking about with the government perspective, you already have an opportunity to work with the Competition Commission of India, in which you will be studying or you will be analyzing the case studies of various e-commerce platforms that have been there, right? Like if I talk about any of a product, like a pen I have been searching, right? In Mintra, I am getting that pen of 100 rupees. Now in Amazon, I'm getting that pen of 150 rupees. Now in Flipkart, I'm getting that pen of 90 rupees. As a consumer, I will go and purchase it from the Flipkart, right? So these type of an antitrust or anti-competition that is happening in the market. So we have to look into this because the competition law has a main objective that there should be fair dealing with that particular product. In case we find out that a particular company, like if I talk about the pen was of Pentonic, right? So having the same company but the different pricing in the different platforms is an unfair dealing for our consumers, right? So accordingly, you can become a competition lawyer if you have an interest to work with this particular field. Now, if I talk about the private equity or a venture capital attorney, the private equity is talking about that you have been such type of a lawyer that you are taking a stake in that particular property, right? And now, in case that you have got a case of 100 crore hospitals, right? 100 crore was only a one hospital, and that hospital has to be sold out, right? Now, being a private equity lawyer, what will you do? That you will find a buyer of that particular hospital and you will take a stake of about 4 to 3% from it, right? The 4 to 3% will be yours, and rest the person who is being purchasing it will be his, right? So being a private equity lawyer can also become a good option, or I should say a real estate lawyer. In simple terms, we can understand it as a real estate lawyer, the one who has been dealing with such type of properties or such type of land disputes have been happening. In that, they're taking a percentile and then they have been working along with it. And last one is the venture capital attorney. Venture capital attorney is a transaction lawyer. If I talk about that, they have been dealing with the transactions that have been happening from the one party to the another party, and how there might not be no risk for any of the third party, right? If there is a step and third party risk happening, then as a transaction lawyer you have to suggest a strategy, that which strategy that we can opt for it. So these are in career options for a corporate lawyer, though it is not being exhaustive in the nature, but there might be more of an options which I would have missed out. But these are some of the basic ones that whenever after the 5 years or after the 3 years when you enter into the law field, you should be aware about these type of lawyers that have been there in the market. Now the first step that you have to look into that how you can build a career in corporate law. So this is the mastering of a legal drafting, which you have to understand it, because there are various US based firms that are talking about the contract management. Like if I talk about the Quizlex is there, United Lex is there, these are talking about the contract management. So in that the legal drafting plays a crucial role. Apart from this, the 8 careers that we discussed, and that also the mastering is very important. First one is to understand the purpose and the audience. Now you have to understand for whom we are drafting it, who is the recitals of that particular agreements, right? So accordingly we have to make a draft. Second is plan, structure and the outline. You have to plan accordingly that each and every regulation is also being fulfilled, and the organization is never in the negative of that particular draft. Negative points should not be mentioned in that particular draft. Third is that you have to prioritize your clarity over the complexity. Using a legal jargons in your particular drafts will never make a successful draft. Always use a plain language, because the person to whom you are giving that particular draft, he or she doesn't know the legal jargons. Though we are not being submitting it to the court, right? Though we have to only give it to the another party. When we are giving it to the another party, he or she should able to understand it, right? using in simple English would be a better option, but you can also use in British English so that it makes a more formal tone of that particular draft. Now revise relentlessly. Why? Edit the drafts and read aloud to catch the errors. What happens if the another party is unaware about any of your legal terminologies, right? Now you would face a type of difficulty in explaining that particular person. They might also, if the person of the another party knows the law and they have given you this type of an opinion that these drafts should be there in our particular contract, then we have to design it accordingly. But if the person is not aware about any of the legal terminologies, then also we have to think and we have to draft so that it doesn't harm the another party also, right? So these type of clauses should be there. Like in some of the agreements, there are a survival clause. Survival clause talks about that if the termination is happening or if the arbitration is also happening, the survival clause means the agreement is still being valid, right? So for the another party, it is quite beneficial, but for the person who has been filing this particular agreement will not be beneficial. So accordingly, you have to draft. The last one is leverage of technology and the templates. Now you can use various types of AI tools for clarity and building a template for this particular agreement, but read it twice and thrice so that each and every queries have been resolved by you, right? Last one is learning from the best. Study the high quality documents and seek the feedback from the mentors. Like whenever you are doing this type of an internship, you might come across with an international businesses agreements also. You might come across with the national agreements also. So each and every agreements, whatever you have been observing or whatever you have been reading, you should ask the mentors that why this particular error has been there in this particular agreement, why we have not been putting up a survival clause into it, right? So they can also help you to guide it. Now, how you have to start your corporate law journey? So the first one, how you have to start it, you have to build a strong basic in the corporate law and the contracts that I already told you. Second is you can read a business and the legal news regularly. Do the internship strategically. Why I am saying do the internship strategically? Because in 1 month you might do in the IP law firm that you gain an interest into it. Now you are thinking that we should also explore for a competition commission of India so that we'll also get an idea that how the competition law goes, right? So that's why whenever you're doing an internship, always focus that in which area you have to pursue it. If you're in first year law student, I will not prefer you to go in any of a corporate law firm to do your particular internship. But after your second year, the third year becomes a very crucial one. So in the third year, you should start doing in the corporate law firm so that you can learn something because the basic subjects that you've already studied in your 6 semesters, right? If you are in a 3 years LLB course, then you should opt for any of an internships after your first year of your LLB. Because in LLB there are 7 to 8 subjects that have been taught in 1 semester, so you might gain accordingly and then you can do an internship strategically. Learn the drafting and the practical skills while you're observing in the NCLT, going up for any of winding up procedures also. Then you should know that what practical skills have been also important for it. Attend webinars and the certificate courses. In some of the law schools, they might be not teaching a practical learning of this particular subject, only a theoretical would be taught, right? No analytical skills would be developed, right? So accordingly you can go and attend such type of certificate courses so that you get to know that these particular, like if I talk about the service and the license agreement has to be drafted. Now being a law student, you don't know how to draft that, then you can go and opt for a certificate courses. You can network on the LinkedIn also, because in LinkedIn you can find any number of the lawyers dealing with such type of corporate law perspectives only, then accordingly you can do so. Publish articles in the blogs. Publish articles in the blogs is also a crucial part whenever you're starting your corporate law journeys. Why? Because there are various national law universities, they are having a different corporate and the commercial business law blog sections, right? So you can go and write your particular article and get it published so that the people who is reading your particular article might get in touch with you that yes, your perspective is also very clear with this particular topic, right? So that's why you should always target that you publish within 6 months or within an year. You can publish one research paper or even a blog, so that a good corporate law journey can be started. In that, what you will be talking about in your particular blog, the person who would be hiring you would see that yes, this person already know how to do a legal research, how to write it, how to draft it, right? So this is the perks of writing such type of blogs or in articles. You can even participate in the mood courts and the competitions also. There are various supportive mood courts like Surana and Surana mood courts are there. CCI mood courts are there, which are only been dealing with such type of corporate laws issues only. So in that, whether you win it or not, that is not the main task over here. Here task is that how you have to present your particular drafts, right? So that you can also learn while participating in the moot courts as well as the competitions, and even you get a good chance to talk with such of an industry professionals also. So that's why you should always participate in the moot courts, designing only for in corporate law, that whenever you have to start this particular journey. Now, this is the law firm of the future that I've been building, that we're just talking about that how the law firms are been dealing with their clients. Now, the first slide, as you can see, is the first legal advice. Second is the project tracking, legal products, and managed services. Like if there is one of a desktop talking about the legal desktop of the future, then the person would be seeking a full-time lawyer, a part-time lawyer, a subject matter expert, and the staffing agency. Like if I talk about, there was in one of an architect firm, right? Now they said me that ma'am, you don't have to visit our office for our 9 to 5 job. It will not be a job, but whenever we are seeking such type of compliance, we will be approaching you. So these are some of the subject matter experts that they know that I am being an expert so that I can help them out, but they are not being paying me according to their own firms, right? You are acting as a retainer of that particular company, though your name is also never been revealed over there, but you have a good relation with that particular company and you are acting as a part-time lawyer also. So in this case also, in the small law firms, or I should say boutique law firms, you can go and be act as a part-time lawyers also, so that you don't have to pay for a full time. The person will not be able to pay you for the full time, but as per the case basis, they will be paying you. So this is also one of an option when we're talking about the legal advice category. Now, if I talk about the product and the services or a third party strategy, then there are various law schools, government, other service provider, risk and regulatory firms. If I talk about the IRDAI, the Insurance Regulatory Authority of India, that is only been dealing with the insurance risk party that is there. If I talk about the Bajaj Finance, that is only been dealing with the product and the services, right? So these are also some of the strategic alliances that you can learn about it from the legal desktop, and this is also coming under our ambit of a corporate lawyer. Now, how the law firm operations have been there? First one is the process, the tech support, management, e-billing, business, outsourcing, finance and accounting. So in these type of services, do we need a lawyer? Yes, we do need a lawyer. The one who knows that how the accounting has to be taken place, the one who is been familiar about the tele ERP, then yes, he can also do this particular process. Second is the support staff, leadership, tech team, knowledge management, marketing, operations. So these are some of the people that we also need in the law firm operations. They might not be from a law background, but they might be the one who can build a future of that particular company. The last one is the technology, the one who is know that how the in this, the engineers will be playing a crucial role into it, that how the data repositories are to be taking place, how the ERP systems are been working. So this is some type of an ecosystem that you have to follow it. Legal research, legal analytics, litigation is also there. contract drafting, contract review, matter management, expertise, automations. So these are some of the part of our legal ecosystem. Contract management, drafting, review, management, everything is quite different. They are not the similar ones, right? The one who is been preparing a draft, maybe a contract drafter, the one who is only reviewing it. Means you should know that how the track changes are to be taken place, whether all the pronouns or the verbs are being placed at the right place or not, is the formatting clear or not, that is in contract review. And when we talk about with the contract management, that talks about that each and everything what the party needs are already been declared in a particular contract. That talks about the contract management. So these three dealings that you can do in a corporate law perspectives. The intellectual properties are there, the case laws are there, and the others are also there. That in this legal service ecosystem, you can find n numbers of opportunities in the market, whether it's a risk or the regulatory firms, whether it's a service providers firms, whether it's a government. Like in each and every domain, you need a lawyer. That is the main motto behind this particular flowchart that you can understand from it. Now, the last we are discussing about the internship and the practical exposures. The internship and the practical exposures that I already talked to you about, that when you have already understand the basics of the company law, the SEBI regulations or the FEMA regulations, then you should also learn the drafting in the research skills, explore the different practice areas, build the professional connections and improve your CV. So choose learning over the brand's names in the early stages. Like when you are in a law school or law students, you might always think that we have to go for a tier 1 law firm, we have to go and work in the tier 2 law firm, in the tier cities we have to work, right? So choosing such type of a brand names in the early stage would not be a good option. Why it will not be a good option? Because they need such type of an experienced lawyers, right? So firstly, we should always go for an boutique law firms in which 4 or 5 partners would be there, 3 to 4 associates would be there, in which you can learn the work that has been there as in corporate lawyer, right? As a corporate law, that what is the work that has been done. After you gain after a 1 year or 1.5 years of an experience in that particular boutique law firm, then you can go and approach to any of the tier law firms. It will be beneficial and they might take you. Why they might take you? Because they will see that yes, this person already knows the work. So we know and we don't have to start up from the initial stage or the infant stage, right? So that's why always opt for a person with who or he or she can help you out with it. So this is one of a tip that whenever you are going up with an internship or an practical exposure, so you should never go or run behind the brand names in the early stages. But when you have an experience, they might really take you in their firm and then you might earn a good amount of a salary also. Now, what is the future of a corporate lawyer? If I talk about the future of the corporate lawyer, is one of the emerging areas right now, because these are the growing areas like the startup ecosystem, technology and the AI regulation, sustainability, cross-border transactions have been happening, digital governance, data protection and the privacy. Because technology and the AI are changing the business rapidly, and today's the companies are also being expected to be socially responsible. That's why we have been mentioning about the ESG and sustainability also. Over here, privacy is also one of a crucial role. Why? Because privacy and data protections are becoming in major legal areas right now. Because whenever we are talking about the UPI payments have been failing, or there are such type of scanning of in UPI payments and our bank account gets freeze for any of an unauthorized access that has been done. So this is also coming under the ambit of our corporate lawyer. So that's why this is one of an emerging areas that we have been discussing with the startup ecosystem, technology and the AI regulation, sustainability, cross-border transactions, digital governance, and the data protection and the privacy. So thank you everyone. If you have any of the questions, the The platform is open for the questions. If you have any questions, you may ask me.
Ma'am, how do we learn drafting and all?
See, you can learn drafting by doing this type of a certificate courses. Secondly, you can go and opt for any of a lawyer who is doing a real life experience in the court, that how the drafting have been there. So from there also you can learn. So these are the two methods in which you can learn drafting. Yeah, how is the work of a corporate lawyer different from a CS? See, the first question that I have been dealing is how's the work of a corporate lawyer different from that of a CS? See, when you are becoming, like if I talk about, you have opted for a 5 years integrated program, then after that in between you have also been completed your CS, right? You have to give your license. You can further practice in that particular advocacy field. Secondly, when you become a company secretary, you just have to do a compliance work, means the regulatory formation, that how the company has been formulated, right? So this is something a CS role will be doing. But doing a corporate law with the CS will be benefit, because a person will have to hire only one person, because he can deal with the legal matters also, and he can do the compliance work also. But he will never be appeared before the court, right? So accordingly, you can go and opt for it. And the work of a corporate lawyer is different from NCS. How it is being different? Like if I talk about, the corporate lawyer will only be dealing with the legal te- terminologies, but the company secretary will be dealing with the compliance work or the rules and regulations that are being given. The lawyers will not be dealing with the rules; they will be dealing with the statutory provisions that have been mentioned under an acts. But the company secretary will be dealing with the rules that are mentioned under their secretarial standards, that these are followed or not.
Ma'am, as CS is like we have to give papers, so can't we do it along with law?
Yes, we can do along with the law. You can firstly appear for an foundation, then you can go for an executive, and then you can go for a professional exam. But you have to look into that it does not clash with your any of your law exams, because most of the law exams have been happening in the month of May, or the CS exams are been also happening in the month of June. So accordingly, you have to balance out. Ma'am, regarding the law firms of the future, could you please explain again? See, if I talk about the future of the corporate law, that I discussed about the emerging areas that we have been talking about. Like today, the companies are being socially responsible. Like if I talk about, the carbon taxes are also being imposed, right? So in that case, what happens when I have been transporting this particular goods? If I talk about the cargoes that I've been transporting, so I made a contract with the particular company that 1000 tons I will be giving you of my cargoes. But at that time, I was unable to give the 1000, I only paid the 8000. Now, the carbon tax will only be imposed in the 8000. Rest my 2000 that was been remaining, it will be shifted that whenever I need to give that particular transport of that particular cargo, then accordingly that carbon tax will be adjusted. So these type of an ESG or the sustainability that the companies have been opting for and socially responsible for the country as well as both the nations. So this is one of the emerging ones. Secondly, you can also go and opt for a technology in the AI that are also been changing the business rapidly, because whenever we will not be giving a contract to that particular, if a person is sitting in Dubai and you are sitting in India and you have drafted a contract with that particular person, you might not be giving that contract in person, right? You might be sending a fax, right? And you might be also having some type of a protected key in that particular document. Then accordingly, you have to see that how the data privacy is not being breaching in that particular contract. So in that case also a corporate lawyer has been needed for that particular protection. So these are some of the areas that you can look into it. Third question is, when how many certificate courses or webinars should we take? See, doing a lot of certificate courses or the webinars would never be beneficial. Firstly, secondly, doing a thoughtful or the one who is adding a credibility to your particular knowledge. That what matters. Don't oversee your quantity over the quality. The quality always matters. So if you do a certificate course certified from any of an NLUs, then yes, the quality matters. But if you do from any of the legal platforms that are already been there, like if you do from a law sequel, and numbers of platforms have been available. So it depends upon the person from whom you have been teaching. If you see that person has already been in more than an experience of 15 to 20 years, he or she might help you in that particular drafting, then yes, it would be good. But a person who is very 2 to 3 years of an experience and giving you the main insight, then yes, it would also be helpful. So it depends upon your area of interest that you have been talking about or the expertise that you have been talking about. If you talk about that I am an expert of a corporate lawyer, I can also teach you drafting also, then yes, it depends upon you that which drafting that you have to opt for. So always think that the quality matters over the quantity. If you do more than 10 to 15 webinars, but the interviewer would ask you that doing a same subject, like in a competition now you have done a 10 webinars, so it might not be helpful, right? So doing a different set of webinars could be helpful for you, and different sets of certificate courses could be helpful. How to initiate legal research or blogs? See, currently, whenever there is this type of an emerging issues, then you have to look into it, that how you have to write this particular res- write this particular law. If I talk about, there has been recent amendment of the companies law, that in or in the SEBI laws, then accordingly, apart from that particular amendment, why was there being need? Was the amendment being satisfied or not? Or whether we can also go for any of another amendment in that particular statutory. So accordingly, you can draft your particular blogs and get it published, because blogs are something before starting any of in research, the blogs are very helpful. Why they have been helpful? Because you are only talking about 1500 words. You are sharing your opinions into it. So that's why whenever you are sharing any opinions, so you should always know that how you have to write that particular opinion. This might be a dissenting opinion also. This might be a critical analytical also. So it depends upon that how you are thinking or what are the recent changes that you can bring in the market while writing that particular blog. Can you please state the advantages of the work in-house company and working in a corporate firm? See, working in an in-house company, you have to give your license. Further, you will not be working for any of an another cases. Even it's a personal cases also. So this is some type of a disadvantage when you're working in-house. Like for an example, if I'm working in a Godrej company, so I can't take any of in case of Amazon. I can't take any of in case of any other XYZ companies, right? I have to only take up the cases of Godrej, and there might be a particular salary being coming out. But when we are talking with the particular corporate firms, you can even bring your cases to that particular firms. The firms will be handling an n numbers of different cases also. So working in a corporate firm would be an advantageous one. But when you're working in an in-house as a corporate lawyer, it might be sometime a monotonous to work. That the same type of cases are being coming, same consumer complaints are being coming, same you have to draft accordingly, and then you have to give them a reply. So it depends that which you are been opting for it. Though I have shared the pros as well as the cons of working in an in-house as well as working in a corporate firm. Is there any advice you would give specifically to recent LLB graduates entering the corporate space? See, if you are already been an LLB graduate and you want to enter into a corporate space, So my one advice would be that you should have a good professional communication. That is what matters. Second is the drafting skills. That what matters in your particular thing that you have been drafting. Thirdly, I would say the research skills are also crucial ones. And fourthly is the networking. Because whenever you're working in any of a boutique law firm, you should always make a good connections with them, because in future might you get such type of cases and you might take in help of any of it senior advocates or any of the lawyers. So having a good network is also very important. So my crucial advice for any of our graduates would be that might be a hectic job, but the job timing has already been fixed. Like if you have to work for 9 to 5, you will only be working for 9 to 5. There will be no extension like in the case of a litigation. Because in litigation there might be a lot of extension of your particular law firms, but when you're talking with the corporate law firms, there will be a time bound that if you're coming into this particular time, and by this particular time you have to go out of this particular place, right? So it will be a good environment working in a corporate firms also, but there are also cons for it. There might be various toxicity in various of the law firms that this new joinee has been coming. They might not be inculcating you, but what you have to do is that you have to be focused on your particular work. You don't have to go and talk with such type of people that are creating such type of toxicity in that particular environment. Ma'am, is Loctopus a good institution for learning drafting? See, I would not say that the Loctopus is a very good institution for learning of and drafting. What I said, the person who is teaching that particular drafting is more important. Because whenever you are seeing any of the certificate courses, then you should always know the speaker who is been talking about. You should search about that particular speaker, that how much experience he or she has, how much he has been teaching in this particular drafting. Then I can say that yes, they might having a good certificate course that you have been getting into it, right? Though Law Octopus is a good institution for learning any film certificate courses also. Ma'am, can you explain the road map is for the CS after BA LLB? See, if you've already been graduated in your 5 years of an integrated course, then you can go and offer a CS executive. You don't have to give any of an CS foundation exam. You can go directly and appear for an examination of an executive level. You would be having two groups into it. Four subjects are there. Accordingly, then you will pass it. Then the final exam, the CS professional, you can go and offer it. But when you are in your 5 years of an integrated program, in between you have to go and give in CS. Then accordingly, you have to see, you have to give the foundation also, you have to give executive also, you have to give professional also. But after clearing your 5 years of your LLB, though you have a graduation degree, then you can go and directly appear for an CS executive. There will be no foundation for it.
Ma'am, as someone starting an internship under corporate lawyer, do you have any advice?
See, when you're starting any of an internship under any of a lawyer, the first advice is that the mentor he or she is providing, that you should know. Like if he is only giving you the files to read, then you should know that okay, these are the files that I am been reading. Sir, I am not getting this, or ma'am, I am not getting this. Kindly explain, right? So in that cases, in that would be your learning process. For the first time you might not understand, but for the second time you might understand. So that's why any query that you have, even the query that is making you feel like if I ask that, it might they might doubt me. No, you should never doubt yourself. You should ask because you are in a learning stage. When you are becoming a lawyer, you are always in your learning stage. You learn even from the students also, you learn even from your peers also, you learn even from your seniors also, right? So that's why learning is the basic key whenever you are entering into corporate law. And secondly, you have to observe that how the networking are being done in that particular firms. Like there might be various clients been visiting that particular firms, right? Then accordingly you have to see into it. And the internships are the main roles that have been played that each and everything that you have been learning in that your 1 month, you should always grab or you should write in your notepad that this is the particular thing that I have been learning, or this thing. Even now the Google Access are also been there, so it is also quite important, extremely important to learn the drafting, research, and professional communication whenever you are entering into a corporate space after your graduation or doing any of an internships. What are the exams will be helpful for the corporate law and how in which it could be advantage and how can we initiate those? Also, rather than exams, is there any other opportunities to enter the corporate law with the required knowledge and skills other than an internship? See, for a corporate law, if apart from any of an exams that you have to give, like if I talk about in SEBI that you have to become a legal officer, you have to give an SEBI officer's exam. If in case of an RBI, you have to become an RBI legal officer, you have to give their exams. In banking, you have to become a legal officer, you have to give the exams. But apart from this, you can also become a panelist of these particular companies. How you can become a panelist? With your skills and knowledge. Now, what skills and knowledge that you need? That is the same that I have been talking about after the recent graduate that you entered into a corporate space. Like I talked about the drafting, I talked about the research, I talked about the professional communications, networking. So these are some of the skills that have been required for any of an corporate law. If I talk about the top five MNCs that are Deloitte or KPMGs or PwC, right? They take your interview within compliance methods only. They might ask you various questions related to the compliance, and there might be a personal interview, group discussions, and then you will be appointed as a legal in the legal department, right? So accordingly, it depends on what is your target. According to your target, you have to set up your goals, and these are the particular skills that have been required apart from any of an examinations that you have to enter into any of an corporate law. What is the difference between a blog and an article except in the terms of a work length? See, blog is something that you are sharing your opinion in between 1000 words, right? But when we are talking about an article is something a quite descriptive or an analytical research that you have been doing. If I talk about a Joseph Stein case, right? In Joseph Stein case, there might be various articles being involved. Now you are writing a judgment reasonings. There might be various judges that have also been given their opinion and they are giving a dissenting opinion. Some might have given a opening opinion. So accordingly that you have to write it, right? The facts you have been mentioning, the issues you have been mentioning, the judgment reasoning you have been mentioning, you are writing the arguments of the petitioner as well as the respondent. That is included in an article. If I talk about within case commentary procedure, but with not within case commentary procedure, if I talk about of a normal article also, it might last for more than 1000 words. Apart from the work length, there is the main distinction is that it is quite descriptive in nature, right? Because in detail, each and everything you have been writing, but in a long, you are writing only the thing that is making an opinion to the society. That is what matters, or a difference between both of them.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope everyone's doubt is clear. And thank you
There are
everyone for
more doubts.
participating. Yes, ma'am, we can take it.
Okay.
Okay.
What is the expected salary for a fresher working as an in-house or a corporate lawyer? See, if I talk about an expected salary that you don't have any of an experience, then you can get about to 30,000 per month, right? If you don't have any of an experience. But after you gain your 1 year of an experience, it might increase to the 60 or 70 depending upon your experience scale. Though you're working in any of an in-house or though you're working as in any of an MNCs as a corporate lawyer, it depends. It depends on the scale of that particular company also, that how the company has been growing. Accordingly, they might give you. How first year, 5 year LLB students can start for a corporate field. See, if you are a first year law student, then I would say that in the first year, you should know you should not visit the corporate law firms. For the first year, you should go for any of an NGOs, because though you have not studied such type of subjects, you might be unaware about any of the facts that have been happening in the court proceedings or any of the corporate law firms. So that's why when you have to start a corporate law field, then you can go and work in the research oriented. Like if I talk about CCI, they take you after the 1 year if you have been completed or the 2 years have been completed, right? So these government agencies or the government authorities will help you out. Though you have to go for in corporate law field, and then accordingly you can go and apply in the boutique law firms working in the business laws or the companies act provisions. Then accordingly you can go for it. Ma'am, can you explain about the taxation law and how it is related to the corporate law? What are the advantages and the disadvantages and the practical exposure? See, when I'm talking about the taxation law and the corporate law, in the taxation law, we are talking about the GST compliances, we are talking about the custom compliances. So these are quite different, though we are not, though it's a part of a corporate law. So, but there is a quite distinction between both of them. That is, that when you are opting for any of an taxation law or you are opting for any of an corporate law. So corporate law that we already discussed about, that is talking about the formation, management, governance, but the taxation is talking about the taxes that have been regulated by the government authority, right? So in the Companies Act, we are talking about the business entities, but when we are collecting the revenues from the government through the taxes, then we are talking about the income tax provisions or the customs provisions. So accordingly, with the practical exposure, there is a practical exposure in both of the fields. It depends upon your interest that you have been looking into it. If you want to become any of an tax authority or an tax agent, then accordingly you can go and apply it with the financial and the revenue or department. You can go and do your internship in this particular field, filing the tax returns, planning the GST compliances or the tax disputes that have been happening. Though these are some of the tasks that have been done by chartered accountants, but as a lawyer, we should also know the compliance work, that how we have to do it out. That is also a main advantage on this. So the focus for the corporate law is on the business structure, but the focus is on the taxation obligations and the liability that we have been talking within taxation law perspectives. So there is not quite any disadvantage for a practical exposure. It depends upon your interest that you have been gaining in. Right? If you are liking this particular subject, then yes, you can go for it. And if you are disliking it, then you cannot go for it. It depends upon your expertise. I think I have cleared all the doubts. If anyone is having any doubts.
I hope everyone's doubt is cleared, and rest doubts we can cover in the other session. So thank you so much, ma'am, for this amazing session, and it was a very insightful and enriching session. And your guidance truly gave students a better understanding of opportunities and roadmap. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. Thank you, ma'am. I have shared the attendance sheet in the comment box. Everyone is required to fill that. You guys can follow ma'am's LinkedIn account. I'll share that in the group too.